The Honourable Member
Speaker,
David
Labor
Shearer
opposes this bill, and we oppose it not because we don't accept that there are serious problems with our intelligence agencies, and not because we don't think that changes in law aren't necessary, but because the Prime Minister, who is responsible for our intelligence agencies, has simply not made the case for why we need to ram through this legislation so quickly, without taking, sir, a proper look at the critical issues right across our intelligence agencies, not just with GCSB, but right across the intelligence network. I asked John Key if he had any evidence that New Zealand would be more at risk if this legislation was not passed through, and he simply could not make that case. He also couldn't explain why, if changes are so urgent, why he didn't act a year ago when he found out the problems and put urgent legislation through there. Sir, this bill has been rushed and it has been poorly informed. The Prime Minister denied my request for the committee to hear the SIS, the Defence Forces or the police and how they were going to fit with the GCSB and why they needed the GCSB support as they had described. He turned that down, and he did so because he didn't want to take a closer look at what their problems really were. He wants this off the political agenda, and that's the scenario, sir, we are looking at. He knows people don't believe his explanations. New Zealanders don't believe his explanations. They are losing trust in his oversight, and they don't believe that he's passing the law for the right reasons. He just wants the spying scandal to go away, but it simply won't go away. And, sir, the tragedy of this is it is a missed opportunity for New Zealand. It's an opportunity we could have had to pass legislation that would restore Kiwis' confidence in our intelligence agencies, so that people know we are operating in their best interests, and that we've got the balance right between security on the one hand and their privacy on the other. And, sir, that's why Labor has argued we need a full and independent inquiry across our intelligence community before we put legislation in front of this House. New Zealanders' confidence has been shattered by the recent events in our intelligence agency, sir. It has been a complete train wreck. We've seen a litany of failures. The GCSB illegally spying on .com. And remember, we would not be here putting this legislation through if it hadn't been for .com and the fact that Bill English was trying to hide the illegal spying by GCSB on .com from the courts. Sir, that is the fact. We then found out there was illegal spying on many other New Zealanders. We then find out that John Key has shoulder-tapped a mate of his to become the head of the GCSB. We've heard now, sir, in this past week, that a New Zealand journalist was spied on and tracked in Afghanistan. And our agencies, sir, were complicit in that. And now we've got officials tapping into journalists' phone records right here in our Parliament, sir. And the GCSB, of course, was involved in that too, because the Henry report actually states that they had a, quote, substantial role, particularly in the gathering of records. But of course, John Key says it's nothing to do with him. Nothing to see here, nothing to be worried about. It's the Parliamentary Services problem, it's David Henry's problem, it's somebody in GCSB's problem, it's the legal advisor's problem. It's somebody that had a brain phase problem in GCSB. Through all of these scandals, sir, it has been John Key trying to pass the blame on to somebody else. And when he does get caught out, we have to drag the truth out of him. Well, I say to Mr. Key, it's time to stop making excuses. A serious mistake has been made. Stop blaming others and start taking some responsibility for the actions of the agencies that you lead. Today, sir, was astonishing. Mr. Key took the opportunity on breakfast radio to announce that there was the existence of Al-Qaeda threats. This was, I believe, reprehensible. We have seen the pattern before. Weapons of mass destruction. We've seen the Boston bombings brought into the debate around the GCSB bill. But in this case, sir, there's no context, there's no detail, there's no ability for him to give context or detail, sir. He's using his privileged position as the head of our spy agencies to give him political gain. And that, sir, is reprehensible. He is scaremongering designed to shift attention away from the facts of the case and the train wreck that is about this bill and what's around it, sir. But here's the second thing, sir, that I find so astonishing about the Prime Minister coming out and saying something like this. It's incredibly stupid. It's incredibly stupid. Why don't you send a postcard to people who are threatening us and saying, we're spying on you? It's incredibly dumb. This is not boy zone. This is not boy zone. This is serious. And I've spent 7 years in the Middle East alongside people who have let off bombs, and my family was in a hotel where a bomb went off and killed 40 people. So what? Does that make us feel safer? That somehow he can announce to everybody that these people are going to be spied on. Well, sir, I think it's extraordinary. Apart from anything else, we actually have agencies, our intelligence agencies, working on it. And those intelligence agencies, sir, are actually doing a pretty good job. And they don't need to have their activities dragged into the public arena for a man's political gain in order to help them with their jobs. In fact, they've just had their jobs definitely hampered as a result of that. New Zealanders want to be able to trust our intelligence agencies again and to know that they are doing good work and they are properly policed. But that won't happen when all the power continues to rest in one person, sir, one person, unlike any other of the countries that we are close to. So the Prime Minister appoints our top spy. He heads up the committee that provides the oversight. So he's in charge of operations and he's also in charge of oversight. He chairs that committee, and on top of that, he's a casting vote. He appoints the Inspector General and the Commissioner of Warrants. And just let's go back again to where we started with this. It was about .com, and the only reason we got to hear about that was because Mr. .com revealed it in court. Otherwise, we wouldn't have heard anything. We wouldn't have heard anything. So we're setting up a system designed for cover-ups. We're setting up a system which will simply not work. And the real shame about this, sir, is that we could have had a much better system. In fact, sir, I would go as far as this. I went and saw Mr. Key. I said, we're prepared to work with you. He said, doesn't matter. We've got Mr. Dunn. We're chucking a bit of stuff. We're chucking a bit of stuff at Dunn, and he'll get across the line, and we won't need your vote. That's the extent of the negotiations with this side. No phone calls, no approaches, no nothing. So, sir, I'm going to say right now. I will say right now that Labor will work with the government on an independent inquiry with the terms of reference that can be agreed right across the Parliament, and that we will work with you to get good law that will provide the confidence that New Zealanders need in order for our intelligence agencies to function in the proper way. Thank you, Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
I call the Honourable Minister